All right, here's Precalculus Concept 1C under Sequences using the factorial notation or the factorial symbol. There's 4 boxes, so here we go. The first box here is understanding the factorial symbol, and it looks like a big giant exclamation point. So 5 factorial, what this actually means is, let me use blue. What this actually means is to start with the number that you see and multiply integers all the way down until you get to the integer of 1. So we get 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. This is a value of 120. So 5 factorial has a value of 120. 3 factorial just means 3 times 2 times 1. 3 times 2 is 6 times 1 is just still 6, so this is a value of 6. This button is on your calculator, so I'll show you. If you pull your calculators up and I want 5 factorial, I push the number 5. And then you push the math button, which is the third one down on the left, and you see this these menus that you have here. You have math, number, complex, probability, and factorial. It's underneath the probability button. So if you just go actually push the back button twice, that's the fastest way to get there. And then you'll see option number 4 right here. So you can actually just push option 4 on your calculator and 5 factorial comes up on the screen, and then push enter and you should get a value of 120. So to check 3 factorial, if I go 3, math, and then I go over, and then I go option number 4, factorial, and I push that, and then of course I get the number 6. Okay? So some special cases to note here. So what do you think 1 factorial is, right? 1 factorial, well, that's just going to be the number 1, right? That's pretty easy. But what about 0 factorial? What do you think the number 0 factorial has to be in this particular case? Well, 0 factorial has to also be the number 1. I'll prove it to you. And you put in the calculator, if you go 0, math, over, and then you go option number 4, factorial, notice the calculator gives you back 1. Okay, remind me in class to show you why that is. I do have a little tiny fun reason why. Okay, so in general then, if we're talking about in general, so n factorial means start with the number n, multiply it by n minus 1, then by n minus 2, all the way down until I get to the number 1, right? Because after all, you start with the first one, then you go multiply it by 1 less than the first one, then 2 less than the first one, and so forth, so on and so forth. So this is in general what it means to be factorial. Okay, box number 2 is an example. Write out the first 4 terms. We have 2 to the n over n minus 1 factorial. So I want the first 4 terms. So I want a sub 1, I want a sub 2, I want a sub 3, and then I want a sub 4. So this is going to be 2 to the first all over 1 minus 1 factorial. 2 to the first is the number 2. So that's going to be 2 divided by 1 minus 1 is 0, and 0 factorial is the number 1. So therefore the first term in my sequence is 2. The second term, so I'm going to have 2 squared over 2 minus 1 factorial. So that's going to be the number 4 over 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 factorial is still 1, so the second term is going to be the number 4. Okay? 3, so this is going to be 2 to the third over 3 minus 1 factorial. 2 to the third is the number 8. And then 3 minus 2 is the number, or sorry, 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 factorial is still 2, so divided by 2. So this is also the number 4. So that's okay to have. And then this one, I'm going to have 2 to the fourth over 4 minus 1 factorial. 2 to the fourth is 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 16. So it's going to be 16 over 4 minus 1 is 3, and 3 factorial is the number 6. So 16 over 6 reduces to 8 thirds. So I'm going to have 8 thirds in that one. Okay, box number 3 is all about evaluating some expressions that have the factorial symbol. I have A, B, and C for you. Part A says 10 factorial over 2 factorial times 8 factorial. So all this means, you guys, is 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Whew. That's the numerator, right? That's what 10 factorial means. 2 factorial means 2 times 1, so I'll put that in parentheses. And then 8 factorial means 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Well, do you guys notice anything, right? I mean, all of this stuff, since everything is being multiplied together. So everything up top here cancels with everything down below there because we're multiplying everything. Okay, that's just the number 1 right there. And then 10 divided by the number 2 is the number 5. So all I'm left with is 5 times 9. So this is just the number 45, you guys. That's all that is. So 10 factorial over 2 factorial times 8 factorial can reduce down or simplify to the number 45. Okay, but what about example B here? I have n plus 1 factorial. How do I write that in factorial symbol? Well, remember, that just means start with what you have, n plus 1, okay, and multiply by one integer less than that. So that would just be n plus 1 minus 1. So that's just the number n. And then, of course, the one after that would be n minus 1. And then the one after that would be n minus 2. And these are individual numbers like this, so I'll keep it like that, all the way down to the number 1. Well, the denominator is n times n minus 1 times n minus 2, right, all the way down. So notice each one of these pieces cancel out, and the only thing that you're left with is the answer of n plus 1. That's what that means. Okay, let's do one more together. Let's move over here, for example. Okay, n factorial over n minus 1 factorial. So this means I'm going to have n times n minus 1 times n minus 2 all the way down until I get to the number 1. Here I have the number n minus 1, then I multiply by n minus 2, then by n minus 3, all the way down until I get to the number 1. Well, hopefully you guys see that this term and that term cancel out, this term and that term cancel out, and everything cancels out until I get down there. So all I'm left with is just the integer n, whatever that happens to be. Kind of a fun example. Okay, box 4, you guys try this one. Evaluate. 14 factorial over 2 factorial times 12 factorial. You can use your calculator to check too, but make sure you put everything in parentheses. Okay, hopefully you got the right answer. So the way I wrote it out was 14 times 13 times 12 factorial. And I stopped at 12 factorial because I realized I had a 12 factorial on the bottom. So those are going to cancel out with each other. And then I've got 14 divided by 2 is 7. So I've just got 7 times 13, which is 91. So hopefully you got the same thing I did.